Prior to getting the update, I ensured my Windows was up to date with any patches and then ensured my MS Store updates were current as well. The Store app itself got an update that changed the UI a bit. Now I have my system avatar on the top and the Download Updates button is gone from the top. To do the updates, you need to go to the library at the lower left and make the request from there. Once all of that was complete, I used my Add-ins linker app to remove all add-ins from my community folder. There's a link in the description to my video tutorial on using this utility. Once all of these updates were complete, I fired up the sim, which promptly crashed to the desktop. Not unusual, to be honest. I relaunched it and it dropped me at the main menu with a notification that said there were updates in the Content Manager. So I went to that screen from my profile screen and I had 8 updates pending. I allowed these to run and then exited the sim and relaunched it to ensure I was still functional, or at least that the sim was. At 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, I ran up the Store app and got an update that was just over 500 megabytes in size. I then ran the sim up and it had an update of just over 33 gigabytes. The update took over an hour to download, and I suspect this was due to the number of users applying this huge update to the sim and stressing out the servers. After the sim loaded, I had 2 notifications. One said that some download had failed, and the other said to check the Content Manager, which I did. After I checked the Content Manager, I had a number of updates to perform there as well. After these downloads were done, my total time to apply this update had grown to 1 hour and 20 minutes. The failed download seemed to have resolved itself as well, according to the notifications. So on to the marketplace to see what we had to see there. In the free section is the UK 2000 Common Library, so I added that. And then added the Vessels Core Library as well. That update is apparently to support the Seafront Simulations Vessel Simulation Scenery paid sim packs and doesn't add any actual new content to the sim. As you can see in the release notes here, the updates to the sim are pretty extensive. Make sure you check out the known issues so you can see what's newly broken. Due to the number of changes here, I'm only going to look at a few things in this video. Specifically, some of the new aircraft, the DirectX 12 update, the live weather just to make sure it's working, and the new flight recorder. Before we jump into those, I wanted to double check that my FPS was functional, so I loaded up the FPS counter from the game bar. Then I loaded up my old flight recorder and a recorded flight to test with. The menus in the sim were super sluggish, and when I got to the airport to start playback, I was seeing 7 FPS, not encouraging. Once I was on the runway and ready to start playback, the sim seemed to stabilize, but I was seeing all kinds of assistance features that were turned on. This is a new display along the bottom of the screen that shows things such as your throttle percentage, so it's nice that they added that kind of functionality back into the sim. I went into the assistance menu and indeed everything was set to easy, so I reset them back to how I prefer them and continued on. At this point, my FPS appeared to stabilize and was about 32 FPS, as would be normal for this area. I started the replay and the flight replay worked just fine, but overall I was seeing about a 5 to 10 FPS drop from normal. Not very encouraging, and at that point I decided it was time for a reboot and see if this sluggish menu and flight behavior would be resolved. After exiting the sim, Windows itself was super sluggish, so clearly something was rotten. After rebooting and relaunching the sim, I attempted the same test once again. The results were back to what my normal FPS was prior to the sim update for the most part. I'll use these clips for a before clip for the DirectX 12 test in just a bit here. Let's have a look at some of the new aircraft. There are 5 new ones included in this update, which is a super cool addition to the sim in my opinion. First up is the Boeing FA-18. Let's take this bad boy up for a quick flight. I'm not much in the way of a jet fighter pilot, so hopefully we can get it off the ground and not crash too quickly. It seems only appropriate to fly out of Miramar, so that's what we'll do here for this flight. This is a set of instrumentation I'm not used to, most certainly. So for this flight, I'm going to use the external view to get some instrumentation that I'm more familiar with. Well, my normal gear up command is not working here, but wow, this thing is fast and responsive. Let's do a quick barrel roll. Very cool. Here we'll do a quick loop. Again, super easy to perform, but clearly I'm going to need some more practice and familiarization with this aircraft, especially for the instrumentation. Next is the Velocity or Velocity. Not sure how you pronounce that. I suppose it qualifies as a helicopter, but it seems more like a multi-rotor drone. I have experience flying drones in real life, but I'm safe on the ground when that happens. Okay, this should be interesting. Let's hope I can get it off the ground and not crash. I'll set the time of day to noon here so we're not flying into the sun. Wow, there's no pedals. Controls are very unfamiliar to me. Well, let's drop the emergency brake and hit the throttle and see what happens. Well, that was easy enough. I'll drop the throttle back and see if we can hover here a little bit, and then I'll shove the stick forward and see if we can fly. Okay, I think we're hovering here at around 10,000 feet. Here we go. I lost a little bit of altitude pushing the stick forward, but wow, this thing is super slow. That's crazy. I'll fly around the Miramar station here a little bit. Clearly, you need to use the rudder to yaw this thing around, as the stick by itself is not enough to turn it. We'll drop the throttle and see if we can land this thing. Okay, well, that's a pretty interesting vehicle for sure, kind of like a helicopter, but not really. There's no collective or anything. Might be good for sightseeing where you want to hover somewhere. All right, let's move on to the next new aircraft. Next up is the Pilatus PC-6 Porter. Let's take this up for a quick flight. We appear to have 4 instances of this aircraft, and they all appear to be the same except for livery and some floats on this red one here. We'll give this last one here a try over at Miramar. I'll set my time of day back to noon here so I don't have to keep resetting it once I'm inside the sim. Oddly, when I reset the time, it reverted to 4 p.m. after I set my departure. I'm not sure what's going on there. Might be a new bug. I love the cockpit, lots of steam gauges, looks very cool and has great detail. Okay, let's release the brake and get airborne. I'm not very familiar with this aircraft, but it appears to be a short takeoff and landing design. It flies pretty smoothly. We're ascending a little too fast here. I'll drop that back, bring the flaps up. Yeah, this appears to be very nice. Appears to be pretty responsive as well. I'll leave the NX Club and the Pit Special for you guys to check out on your own. All right, let's enable DirectX 12 and see if that affects the visuals at all. This is an early access feature, so don't be surprised if you encounter issues or crashes with it. The setting is in General Options here. As you can see, when I enable it, it says beta or beta if you're from the UK. You need to restart the sim to enable this, so I've done that here. I'm testing this at my local airport now, as you can see. There's a little bit of stuttering, but overall I only seem to have lost between 5 and 8 FPS. Now the FPS has dropped way down in the lower 20s, back up to the mid-20s. We seem to be climbing up a bit, and now back up to maybe 30, I hope. Right around 30 is where my normal FPS is typically at for this area. We saw a pretty good drop during that last turn, though. From inside the cockpit, we get a little bit of a FPS boost up into the low 30s it looks like, so that's not horrible and typically what I would normally see. I'll do a quick before and after here. Okay, I did see some really large stuttering at one point. It almost looked like the sim was frozen, so it's clearly not ready for prime time. Okay, let's check the live weather. It's supposed to be raining pretty hard in Seaside, Oregon right now, so we'll head over there and turn on live weather and see what we get. On the world map now, I cannot drag using the mouse by clicking and dragging anymore. I suspect this is a new bug. I can still zoom in and out with the mouse wheel. Okay, let's set live weather and set our departure to the Seaside Municipal Airport right here. And as we can see, indeed it is pouring rain here in Seaside, Oregon. So live weather appears to be working for the most part. My normal key command for the showcase camera doesn't appear to work anymore. Maybe I'll have to remap it to get it to work in the options screen, so this is yet another bug. I wanted to check out the new flight recorder in the developer menu, but unfortunately it's not working with my mouse properly. It doesn't interpret the mouse location on the screen properly, so I can't select the menu item. Since this is in the dev menu, I'll assume it's not fully baked yet and prone to having issues. There's an online guide to using it, and that's linked in the description. One of the other items I've noticed is that when I set the time of day to noon at my local airport, it changes the time at Miramar, which is in the same time zone as my local airport. In fact, it's only a few hundred miles south of me. I think this is yet another bug in the world map. Add this to all of the normal controls for the showcase camera and drone camera no longer functioning, along with the inability to scroll the world map around. Well, those are the bugs I've found so far, but I've still got a lot more work and checking out to do of the sim. Okay, that wraps things up for this look at the Game of the Year update. If you liked the video, please hit like. That helps other folks find these videos. And until the next video, take care.